If you've been paying attention over the last 3.5 years, you may have noticed something different about the Republican Party. During previous elections, Republicans were acquiescent when attacked, generally turning the other cheek as Democrats accused them of absurd notions like wanting to put African Americans back in chains, which was something Vice President Joe Biden actually said about Mitt Romney, or waging an expensive decade-plus long war just for the oil. But lately, you may have noticed that Republicans aren't taking these attacks lying down. You may have noticed that the party of Lincoln has gotten a little fire underneath it since 2012. It's even become attractive to thousands of very diverse individuals who are sick of the oppressive lies of the left, who had previously thought of it as the old, rich, white man's party. This evolution has perhaps been most apparent during this week's Republican National Convention. I came across a very interesting comment on Instapundit regarding some of those very changes in the Republican Party that the convention is making clear. And for the first time, for many Americans, it's becoming that way. It notes that while rich white elitists are leaving, hardworking Americans of all backgrounds are joining the Republican Party, which is making the GOP more populist. But that can only be good for the party and for America. While the Democrats and the media make snarky, racist, sexist, and xenophobic comments suggesting that the minority, female, and immigrant convention speakers are just tokens or sellouts, they're deliberately missing the real story. The GOP is evolving, and President Trump is the one who's forcing that change. All those lifelong Republican never-Trumpers who are endorsing Biden and his radical left agenda, well, they're largely longtime D.C. swamp dwellers who've made a very fat living for decades by giving lip service to issues that conservative Christians and blue-collar Americans care about, but then delivering nothing. Well, nothing but bigger government, endless foreign wars, and trade deals and tax, and sometimes lax immigration enforcement that enriched other nations and their wealthy donors, but at the same time exporting American jobs and undermining your wages. One thing that these two conventions have shown is that these are not your granddad's GOP or Democratic Party. The Democrats gave us professional politicians and Hollywood celebrities with a dark, pessimistic view of America. The Republicans have been showing real heroes and success stories from the ranks of everyday Americans. The old media stereotypes of rich white Republicans and Democrats who care about the working man, well, they're headed to the ash heap of history. And President Trump is emptying out the ashtray because he's bringing policies that might appall the rich donor set, but they're winning over blacks, Hispanics, immigrants, and other patriotic working Americans. President Trump came into office owing nothing to the political donor class. And despite their relentless attacks, he keeps doing whatever he thinks is right for America, whether it's keeping our promise to move our Israeli embassy to Jerusalem, bringing our troops home, defending religious freedom and preborn children, or demanding that our allies pay their fair share of their own defense, as well as having our trading partners give us better terms. The establishment political class may be aghast that he's finally keeping their empty promises, but they've made a hash of things for years. President Trump is getting things done that they claimed were impossible without a magic wand, and despite the blare of anti-Trump propaganda, more and more people are waking up to that reality. I find this especially gratifying because, quite frankly, this is the sermon I've been preaching for years, and I paid dearly for it. When I first ran for president in 2008, I warned the party that just because Wall Street was doing fine and their donors had big bonuses and corner offices, that didn't mean that all was well in the economy. That was proven out within a year, by the way, with the mortgage meltdown. I traveled what they call flyover America. And I spent my time talking to regular working people, people who drove cabs and lifted heavy things and walked on concrete floors. And quite frankly, I found they were fed up with empty promises and selling America out to the highest bidder. And when I said this, I was accused of being a populist, with that same disdain as they might say socialist. And the big money PACs, like the Club for Greed, as I call it, they call themselves the Club for Growth, I call it Club for Greed. They set out to destroy my campaign with ridiculous lies about how I was secretly a lover of big government and high taxes. Well, I think that's been debunked as thoroughly as the claims in 2016 that Donald Trump was a New York liberal who would destroy the economy, and he was a fascist who would get us into World War III. Well, if the P in GOP starts to stand for populist, that's fine with me, because it refers to the population, or the people of America. We ought to be a party that, with malice toward none and charity for all, puts our own people's interest first. I think Democrats are terrified that President Trump is actually accomplishing just that very thing, which is why the media are so desperate to keep you from seeing the convention, and why the Democrats can't let their opponents speak freely. People of all backgrounds are starting to look past the dusty, false stereotypes that they've been fed for years, and they're beginning to realize who is truly on their side and who's been playing them. If so, then President Trump really will have saved the Republican Party, not just from the Democrats, but from itself. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel below and click the notification bell. Be sure to leave a like and a comment, and share this video. And if you want more of my news, analysis, and commentary on issues of the day, you ought to sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. Delivered twice daily, and it is totally free. Well, that's it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.